Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Ha.
How are you?
I'm good.
Hel- oh, I
Oh,
was.
my bad.
I was
My
talking to
bad.
them.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
What's up?
how's it going? What's up?
How's it going?
So, we're
We
here.
have a very exciting
No, we're not gonna do that again. We have a very exciting. We're at episode 13.
13.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Friday the 13th.
What?
I'm so sorry. I don't know why I said that. We're on episode 13,
Okay.
and we're continuing on with our testimony series. So we have a very special guest,
As
a person. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for this person.
We
'cause
wouldn't be doing a lot of things. if
we
it
wouldn't be doing
wasn't for
a
this
lot of
person.
things, like pretty much everything in this church, tech wise,
Is run
and
by this person.
is run by this person, and we would not be functioning.
Yes.
And also, not only that, obviously, he's a great youth leader, and
And a
he's a
good
great
friend.
friend to myself, and I. He's just me, myself, and I.
Okay.
And so we're excited
Yeah.
to have a testimony series on David Byers.
Buyers.
So come on over, David, and have a seat. Yeah, come ahead. And so now
Hi, David.
he's come from. He's here from the other side of
What
the
is-
camera.
Oh, right.
What?
Nothing.
From the other side?
The other side?
Where's the other side?
On that side?
The other side of the camera.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Or the-
other side.
Yeah, the camera's like about 50 feet away.
It's like
so
not this side, but
That side.
they're like
that.
that,
that
side.
side.
Not a
Okay.
bad side, just that
the
side.
other
The other side. But yeah,
Anyways.
so
It's so bright over here.
Yeah, we know.
we know
David.
it gets hot back here.
They're LED lights. They don't get hot.
Those ones
They're
do.
Those are
hot.
LEDs.
No, every
You're
time.
okay, you're gonna sit here and you're gonna be sweating by the end of this thing.
Yeah,
and
you
then
are.
You can never tell us that we
I'll
shouldn't
be
be
sweating
hot.
because I'm nervous. I don't like this side of the camera.
Okay,
I like
David.
that side where Eli's sitting right now.
Oh, Eli.
Eli.
Hi, Eli. Anyway, so thank you, David, for being here. I mean, you've been here the entire time, but thank
But
you
on
for
this side.
be willing to be on this side of the
Mhm.
camera and talk about your testimony, talk about what God has done in your life. And so I'm really excited. So we're just going to get right into it.
Yay.
So we're going to start from the beginning. From the beginning.
In the beginning,
Beninging. That's a meme, I think.
I think so.
Beninging.
Beninging. I think
In
it was
the-
a guy that was like in the beninging.
In the beninging. I think it, I think it was
Yeah.
somebody reading the
Bible.
Yeah.
The
I'm so
Bible.
sorry. I'm not mocking the Bible.
Wow.
In the beninging. So, David Byers,
Who's he?
let's start with how you became a Christian. How was your family, you, where you, what's your story of how you became a Christian?
Way back now.
Way back. Go ahead, sir.
So I grew up in the church. My parents have always been involved in the church. I can remember we were in a Simply God church but when I was really young, but it was somewhere near that my parents had switched to a different church, and the pastor of that church, he went through Life Bible College, but he didn't want to run it as a Foursquare church, but I mean fall under Foursquare.
Yeah.
So, he did a non-denominational church, and it still ran it as Foursquare guidelines, or kind of like the Foursquare does.
Yeah.
And all. So it was a full gospel church. So we moved there when I was really young, and that's where I was raised all my life, in that church, and until I actually moved up here, I was in that church.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. There's a guy in the church that.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, I just didn't know that. I didn't know it was like that same church.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we rented a small building about a block away from NBC in Burbank, California, and then they bought some property down the street and they built a new building. I got to see that built, and as a kid, and was always involved in the church. My parents were heavily involved in the church. My dad, they had a choir, so they were both parents were in the choir. Eventually my dad got on the church council because it was a non-denominational.
Mm-hmm.
That type of church usually they'll have a board and a council. And the council is usually someone that advises the pastor, if I'm not mistaken. The board is what does more of the financial stuff.
Yeah, I think that's
Where under Foursquare, you just have a council.
Yeah, and they do
and
everything.
they just do the financial.
Yeah.
I might have that backwards, but anyway. So, yeah, he was on that, and I just became involved in the church. I actually involved in the church pretty young. The guy that was, it was the pastor's son-in-law, because his wife was the choir director.
Oh, okay.
So he did a lot of the stuff in the church. And of course, there wasn't the tech stuff you have today. Not even close to that. Wasn't even thought of an iPad. So anyway, he did the sound, and he found out that I liked tech or like electronics or stuff like that. So one day he asked, "Would you want to learn how to run sound?" And I said, "Sure." So at 9 years old, yeah, I was learning how to run sound, which was nothing like what we have today.
Yeah.
It was a knob. There was no EQ.
That's true. Huh? That would be a lot
was
different back
yeah,
then.
it was very interesting.
Hmm.
So that's part of how I got started in doing sound stuff for the church is
Mm-hmm.
through him, Frank Olson, and just went from there.
You remember his name? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, they were all major part of my life growing up.
That's true.
You
I mean,
know,
you were
so,
there for a
yeah.
very long time.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Wait, so since you were there the entire because that was what, like, because you moved here like 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, 2022 September. It was the end of August, the beginning of September when I moved up here in 2022.
I mean 2002.
2002, yeah.
I was about to say, I was like,
Me and numbers have
2022 was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2002.
Yeah,
So
2002.
you were like 40.
When I moved up, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
something
way
like
to age him.
No. I'm just saying because
I'm 36,
No.
remember?
no, I'm just saying because if you were there in the church, like you must have seen so many changes from when you grew up and
Yeah.
like when you moved up here, because you were there for like 40 years.
Yeah, I saw a lot of changes in the church. The only, I guess, could be the good side is because it was non-denominational until the pastor retired.
Mhm.
The pastor wasn't leaving, but I saw changes. I saw choir directors come and go. We had an organist. He was a phenomenal organist. I mean, you could sit there and you could play something for him, and he'd
Mhm.
pick it up and start playing it like he had full sheet music in front of him.
That's crazy.
Oh, it's crazy how good he is.
Yeah.
You know, so he was Catholic, so he would do this mass in the early mornings and lead a choir. Then he would come up to Burbank to do our 11 o'clock service, lead our choir and play our organist at our church.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So is there, before we move on to the next thing, is there like a moment in your life where you were like, okay, like this like where you made your conscious decision of like, it's my relationship with God, like I'm pursuing this, instead of like, you know, because like, I mean, it's the same thing for me and Julianne as well, where like, and we all grew up in the church, and I mean, I got involved when I was super young as well. Maybe not 9, but I was young as well. And so it took me a bit for me to like actually make that conscious decision and have that I guess moment with God to be like, you know what, God, like it's not my parents' faith anymore. Like this is my own faith. Is there a moment like that in your life?
I don't recall. It's just when we started going to camps, because there for a long time we didn't have a youth group in the church. We had children's stuff. We did a lot of children's plays and stuff like that. But once you got up into high school and stuff, we didn't have a youth group until a lot later in time where a couple started coming to the church and their kids started coming. Actually, it was some friends of ours that were part of the church around the same time. They were good friends with my older brother, Don, and Rich and Yvonne, and they just became, because they were friends, the family would get together and we'd just do stuff with them.
Mm.
So we all became really good friends. Well, they had some nephews that were coming, and they invited some friends, and then the youth group kind of got started from that. And Richie and Vaughn did it for a little bit, and then when some of their friends started coming and their parents got involved, they wanted to take it over, so they did. And so there was a point in there where we went to camp, and I'm sure at some point at camp is where that took place. Because I'd never been to a church camp before.
Yeah.
You know, so, and there was, I can remember times I'd constantly question, what do you mean am I saved? You know, so I don't recall the day when it came to, you know, but yeah.
Okay. Well, see, you kind of touched on this a little bit about the youth group where you didn't have any sort of youth group, but, and I know we've talked about this, but was that like when you started the youth ministry? Because I know you've been part of it for a while now.
Yeah. It wasn't until, no, it was a lot later in life. I'm trying to think of how old I was. We had, trying to think of the timeline in there. Because there's a few events that took place in there.
Yeah.
And I know that we had, I was actually on the church council at the time, and we were going to decide to hire a youth pastor. So we went through a few people, and this one young kid showed up, and with long hair, and we liked what he said. He was still going to Life Bible College. He was finishing up in Life Bible College, and we liked his presentation, how he talked and stuff. So we hired him on. And it was shortly after we hired him on, and he started working with, when I started having issues in my marriage, and we separated. So Eric was I talked to him a lot at different times through that. And there's at one point in there, he goes, why don't you help me with the youth? I said, are you sure about that? He goes, yeah. So I said, sure. And that's where it got started. Started going to camps and being a Kevin leader at camps, and got to know the director at camp. And that was the time where you're starting to get into more web pages were starting to be popular, you know, and you could go to my web page, you know.
Web page,
and
internet.
They always, down in California, it was called Southern California Foursquare Youth, but it was called SC4Y. They shortened it down. Yeah. So Southern California Foursquare.
Foursquare.
Yeah.
Oh, I did it so
If
bad.
you look at the back of the van, you'll see a sticker that says it on the back of the van. It's still on there.
In the back of the murder van?
The murder van?
Yeah.
All right.
We
gotta go look at it.
Many camps down there.
That's so cool.
That's pretty cool.
So one time I was mentioning it to Eric. I said, why don't they have a web page? And he goes, I don't know. Why don't you talk to Tim Mossholder about it? Not knowing what I was getting into. So one day at camp, I asked him, I says, hey, he says, why don't we have a web page? Actually, I think Eric had mentioned something to Tim, and Tim says, why don't you come up to the office, the district office, and we'll talk about it. So I went up to his office, and we were talking about it, and he goes, good, why don't you start it? When do you think you'll have it up and running? It's like, what? I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I did, and ran it for probably a couple of years. We'd go take pictures of camps and stuff, post it on there.
Yeah.
You know, it was an interesting thing. I was glad that someone else took it over, though.
What year was that?
Oh,
Year-ish.
I have to think through that one.
Because web pages. Anyway.
Yeah, I'd have to think through that one.
That's pretty cool, though. So, funny enough, well, I mean, you used to work at Camp Cedar, Chris. That was the same camp. I've told you that before.
Yeah.
That was a camp that I used to go to and was a cabin leader as well. Obviously, it was a lot more years after. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I just called you old again. I've called you old like 3 times already. I'm so sorry. Um, yeah. So you've been part of youth ministry pretty much ever since. Right?
Yeah. It's funny to find out how many people that were probably at some of the camps that I was at. And there's people that I knew. One of the youth pastors at that camp, I found out years later after moving up here that Charlie Ford went to Life Bible College, and he went to Life Bible College with the same guy that I was doing camps with.
He did.
Yes.
That's insane.
So, and then to find out that Maddie and Dory and Michael, well, no, it was up here that was camps up here.
Uh-huh.
But it was down there that Maddie's parents were at some of the camps that I was at.
That's insane. That is crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, so you're one of our youth leaders here as well. But let's talk about a different part of your life. Julianne.
David.
Yes.
Hi.
Hey.
I feel like I haven't spoken.
I know.
at
I'm
all.
so sorry.
What?
I'm so
I know
sorry.
somebody keeps
I'm so
talking.
sorry. I just got excited and I was like, sorry.
Sorry, I literally forgot what I was gonna say. So you've lived life,
A little bit.
good life. You've lived life. But but what is some of the hard stuff that you've had to go through, and how did God kind of show up for you through those hard times?
I think losing my dad was hard. Well, it was hard to the whole family, of course, but it was more unexpected. We knew he was having issues, medical issues, and they kept trying to figure out what it was, and they weren't figuring it out, but he was constantly in pain. It wasn't until finally my mom decided he was in such agony, his legs were just killing him. And there's some other things that was going on. So she finally put him in the car and took him to the hospital and says, I'm not taking him home till you figure out what's wrong with him. She goes, you keep, not doing anything. And she goes, I'm done with that. So you're admitting him and you're going to figure out what's wrong with him. And that was in the day. That evening, his kidney burst. And they said, had he not been in the hospital, he would have died then.
Mm-hmm.
And well, they didn't realize that. What they figured out later on is the reason his legs were hurting so bad is because there was a problem with the kidneys. But the other thing we found out was he was taking so much Tylenol to kill the pain that it was masking the amount of pain he was in. Otherwise, they would have realized, hey, we need to look at that. But that started a downhill thing of them. They fixed that. And then he started doing better, and then all of a sudden they found some internal bleeding, and they went in and figured out where that was, fixed that, and that just started happening. They would fix it a couple of days later, it'd happen again. They go in, and they started looking, and I don't know if I can pronounce the thing. It's called polyuridate. I can't say it. Basically,
So
I used to be able to
you'll
say,
put it right there.
Yeah, maybe if I can figure out how to say it.
Yeah. There you
Basically because through his whole life he had asthma and had severely allergic to everything. And so he was constantly on medication to help kind of so he could breathe,
Yeah.
And the doctor just feels that over those many, many years of all that medications and different types of medication, what it did, it made all his arteries hard. It'd be like taking an old hose and you bend it and it breaks.
brittle.
Yeah, brittle. Well, that's what was with his arteries. And that's what finally he died from. And he was basically, it was about 2 weeks he was in the hospital, and then he passed away. And that was something that we didn't see coming.
Yeah.
And so working through that, I think working through the divorce was hard because I felt I was a failure. That wasn't a plan in my life. And but I think that right now the hardest thing is seeing my mom sitting in a nursing home, because she used to be so active. At 80 years old, she would be out walking 5 blocks every day unless it was raining.
Wow.
Yeah. And to see her out walking one day and the next day she's not, and she's sitting in a hospital. And from that point on, she was afraid to get up out of the bed because she's just afraid to walk. And that's where she is today. It's like, and it may sound weird or morbid, but I got to the point of leaving. Every time I leave, would say, God, I know you can heal her. So either heal her on earth or in heaven, because this isn't life for her. So I think that's still hard when I go and visit her on Sundays, to leave and see her in that state.
Yeah.
But I know God's got a plan. I don't know what it is. He hasn't told me yet.
Wait, if he hasn't told you, he's not going to tell me.
And I may not know until she goes home what that is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So kind of, you started talking about your mom. How I don't know, 'cause it's, and I talked in Julianne's testimony. I said the same thing, where like when I hear what people go through and what they've dealt with, like I put myself in those shoes, and I'm just like, how how do you still have like faith in God, and that God is actually, because, and I know it says in the Bible, and we've actually had a podcast episode about this as well, but like when I think of like putting myself in your shoes, where like my dad would pass away, or like getting married and then getting a divorce years later, and then now like my mom or your mom kind of being in the situation, like how do you personally like stay strong, or have stayed strong throughout those times, like your dad, the divorce, and it definitely sounds like it was really tough, and when I put myself in shoes in that, and it's just like I can't imagine myself being in that. And so how did you during those times, and right now going through it with your mom, like how are you staying strong and like what God can do and who he is?
I have moments,
Yeah.
It's that up and down roller coaster ride that we all go on with God, that you can be on a mountaintop 1 minute and in a valley the next. And it's those valleys where you just have to trust that God's still there. And, but I also know I can't do life without him. There's just absolutely no way I could do it. I heard a really sad comment from a pastor recently, and I have to assume he's referring to Christians. It was, if the Holy Spirit left the earth today, 95% of Christians would not know he was gone. And that like hit me hard. It's like, how can you not live life without the Holy Spirit? Because I know I can't. It's a constant reliance on him. And that's gotten even stronger lately, because I don't know what there's things he's taking me through that he's teaching me, and I'm still learning a lot of it. But I just know I have to trust in him.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. And you kind of, towards the end of that, we were just talking about, so where are you at now? Like, apart from like, and you just talked about God is start showing you some things and teaching you some things. So side note, just because you get old in age doesn't mean you stop learning, and you stop going through things, and you stop relying on God. And I think that's important to say, because at least in my experience, when I was growing up, when I would see older people, I would always assume that they have it all together, and that they're full of wisdom, and that they're perfect, and that they're never gonna go through hard stuff again because they're older and they've already been through it. You know what I mean? But I mean, you just never stop learning, and God never stops putting you through things. So where are you right now? And yeah, like where do you think you're going now in your life?
I think it's a deeper relationship with God. through some things I recently went through. It just, it was, I have a bunch of thoughts and I'm trying to figure out which direction to go with it.
All of them, all of the above.
They're just in a circle right now. And I can't catch it. Yeah. I think it's something, again, that I heard a pastor make a reference recently, is that just because you get old doesn't mean you stop.
Mm-hmm.
He said, God has a plan for everybody. There's a reason you're in the spot where you're at for that season, for that time. And I know as God's put me in this spot for a reason. I love the youth. I have a burden for the youth. I want to see them grow deeper with God. Our world is changing, and I'm afraid that if they don't have that deep relationship with God, that they could fall away.
Yeah.
And I've seen too many youth do that, and I'm tired of seeing it. So for me, it's just like, then I need to be as close to God and hear from God so I know how to speak into the lives of the youth.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm, like I said before, I'm extremely grateful that you're part of this church and our youth leadership team. Because and recently I told you as well where there's things that we're doing as a youth group and as youth leadership right now, which is like finding our identity in God and what that means and what it can look like. And I know that God used you to bring that to the youth. And I know he's used you to bring other things to the youth as well. And so I'm grateful for your life and what God has done in your life so you can feed that into us. And I feel like that's also important where also when I was growing up, apart from seeing like the older people that I thought had it all together, and at least in my culture, it was you're supposed to listen to this to the older folk because they've been through a lot much, right? And us younglings, you don't want to listen to the older people because they're stuck in their time or they're stuck in whatever. But I think it's extremely important to learn from people who have been through it already, and also for the older, because at the Foursquare conference they were actually talking about this. I think I mentioned this to you, where there's a difference between discipleship and I forgot what the other word is, but it's like there's a difference. Like for example, like you and I, like there would be a difference if I wanted to talk to you about something and you were like, let's schedule something, let's schedule this hour to talk about it or whatever it may be. It's a difference from that than to you being like, hey, like let's go do something, go get dinner and we'll talk. That is two completely different things. One is like you're setting time apart. The other is you're living life with somebody else. And so whenever we do talk, like, and this is something that I do all the time, is I try to soak in as much as when you and I talk, especially when it has to do with the youth, because I know you've been around it for a lot longer than I have, and you've seen a lot more things, and two, I believe God has placed you here for a reason. And yeah, that's all I have to say for now.
I have a question. Do you have like a Bible verse or Bible story or like a quote or something that has helped you remember who God is or helped you get through kind of like hard times in your life?
The one that recently, and it will probably be with me for my life, is trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lead upon your own understanding. Because what I was going through when I finally realized that remembered that scripture, and it's just like, why didn't I think of that earlier? So much earlier.
A lot
Yeah.
earlier.
A lot earlier. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, that's would be the top one right now, and it will probably be the top one
For life.
for life. Yeah.
Forever.
Well, yeah, because
Forever.
it
Sorry.
it just covers everything.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. That's a pretty
It's
good
so
one.
easy to forget too, which is like so weird.
It's weird, but it's like I feel
Well,
like
I feel like
that's
we talked about this
Yeah.
recently. How like there's no reason not to trust God because like He's the creator of. Or was this at church the other
this
day?
was on Wednesday. Because I talked about it on Wednesday. I said
Oh yeah.
there's a difference between trusting humans and trusting like in my head, and this is I guess what I tried to tell you youth is I couldn't understand why it's hard to trust God, because God is not a human. God is somebody who will never fail us, who will never leave us. Like, it's a fact. Like, he never will. Humans will, and humans will betray us, and humans will hurt us, and that's just what humans do. And I feel like that's why, like, 90% of people have trust issues, and that's why a lot of people don't trust in God, because they're like, well, people are hurting me left and right, so why would I trust God, right?
Mhm.
And so, it was something that we talked on Wednesday
Well,
about.
it's like He's the creator of everything, and He created you. And before He created you, He had planned out your entire life, and He knows everything that's going to happen, and everything that will happen, and He promises to take care of you and to be there for you always, and to love you unconditionally. And so it's like, why don't we? Why is it so hard for us to like remember to trust God? Because He knows everything,
But then we just forget.
but then we just forget.
Well, when you get in the middle of something, which is what happened with me, and this just makes me, anyway, feel stupid. Because I'm going through this process, this thing, and I'm struggling. I'm trusting God that He'll fix the situation, but it's not happening right away. And I'm sitting there struggling through it. And then one day I'm sitting there, and this is how God would talk to me. I'd listen to a sermon, and there might be a little thing in there that God would say, "Hey, yeah, did you hear that? That's you," So one morning I'm sitting there, and I just happened to go through Facebook, and Dan Fusco is talking about trusting God, and he talks about Proverbs 3, 4, and 5, and that's that: trust in the Lord with all your heart. And I'm sitting there looking at it, says, I just went through a Bible study with one of the youth, and and I forgot that scripture. And here I'm getting smacked on the back of the head. It's like, hey, do you remember this? So that's why I said I won't forget that scripture anymore.
Definitely won't. Which
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
you got a right hook, uppercut.
It's like, Dan Fusco, thank you very much.
Thank you. This is not sponsored by Dan Fusco.
We get a lot of money if it was.
Imagine Dave's.
Dave's. Sorry.
But it just shows how God will use something.
Oh
And
yeah.
you have to look for the little things that God can use. It doesn't, we talk about how do we hear God, and it comes in different ways. It's different ways. It could be a song. It could be a thought. It could be that video, that short little video that he did. It's like God saying, here, okay, fine. You want to not trust me? Well, here, remember what you were supposed to remember?
Yeah, talking about hearing from God, just a quick little thing that I have to
go
say,
ahead.
because I feel like a lot of youth especially are always like, because they hear adults and people like of the faith or whatever, like talking about, whatever, sorry. Talking about like hearing from God and talking to God and listening to Him, and they're like, well, how do I do that? And I just have to say that you have to hear from God and to hear from the Spirit, you have to be close to Him, and you have to listen. You can't just be like, oh Lord, please talk to me, and then not do anything about it. Like, you have to be in your word, you have to be praying, you have to really meditate and listen to Him and be looking for it too. Like you hear God a lot through like sermons and like things you see on social media or whatever, which is amazing and that's common.
Yeah.
But if you're not listening to what the people are saying, and you're not, like, if you just sit there in church, you're not listening to the sermon, how do you think God's going to talk to you? Or if you're reading your Bible and you're not really soaking in what it says, how do you think God's going to talk to you, you know? So I just had to say
That's
that.
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is some things I've learned too through this. It's sometimes the thoughts that you have, that could be the Holy Spirit talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you have a thought and you think, well, that's kind of crazy, write it down. And you can start figuring out that, okay, this could have something to it. This could have something meaning. Or you can look at it and go, okay, no, that's, that isn't of God, or that's not truly God. And the other thing I learned too, and it's really helped me in the prayers and stuff, is not asking God why, but what do I need to know? What do I need to do?
Yeah. And that's a rough one.
It is.
It's a rough, because we always want to know the why.
Yeah.
We always want to know the why right away.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't know the why yet.
Well, sometimes the why is just too much for us to understand.
And
Well, I just read in Romans 9, I think, and Paul was talking about how like God is all powerful, and sometimes we just go through stuff so that he can show up for us, and then it can prove like that he's good and that he's God. Like he doesn't have to have a reason to put us through stuff. There doesn't have to be a reason, because he's God and he can do whatever he wants. So sometimes we go through stuff and we never know why, because it can affect people in ways that we don't know and don't understand. So sometimes bad things just happen and we're never going to know the reason. And we can't question God. We can't, Paul said that. He was like, you can't just be like, God, why? Because he's God. Like he doesn't have to give you a reason for anything. So anyway, sorry.
Well, and I think,
Sorry.
oh yeah, a lot of people leave the church because they don't find out the why, and I was gonna say, so a lot of people just leave the church because they never find out, or they focus too much on finding out the why, that they ignore everything else that has happened in there, or everything else that they've gained from what has happened. They just they're not even open to that. They just want to know the why.
Yeah.
But all right, to end, Julianne, if you want to read.
Me? That's my favorite part. I mean, the testimony was good.
Yeah.
My bad. That's my bad. Okay.
This is your favorite part.
We have rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready?
No.
Are you ready?
You got
No.
this.
Okay.
I believe in you.
Are you ready?
Maybe.
All right. David.
Who's he?
David.
Also, David makes so many dad jokes. We're always like,
Yeah, it's true. Okay.
But it's
Are
funny.
you ready?
I think so.
All right. Favorite movie?
I'm not a movie buff.
Okay. Next question. Are you what?
Go back to one you've probably never heard of, Earthquake.
Earthquake.
All right.
Earthquake.
Are you a morning
That's my favorite movie.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies.
I'm literally speaking.
I'm so sorry.
Wow, you're interrupting her.
Yeah, that's actually so rude. Morning or night person? Kids,
Night.
rapid fire.
You said no.
Introvert or extrovert?
In the middle.
All right. Favorite TV show? Are you a TV show person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he is.
Favorite TV show?
What's your favorite TV show?
Rapid fire,
I
David.
know
Rapid
this
fire,
rapid
David.
fire, and I'm not good at it.
You can do this. Currently.
Currently?
Currently, yeah.
Oh, there's a number of them.
Just
I did like Chuck. You did like
Chuck.
You watch Chuck?
Yes.
What?
Talk about it
we're
later.
gonna talk about this after.
Talk
There's
about
no
it later.
way. Anyway, go.
What's your biggest fear? Not too deep though. Just like spiders. Because it's rapid fire.
Heights?
You can't just be like death
Oh my
and
god.
then move on like that. Sorry,
Fair enough.
my bad.
Biggest fear?
Or just like something you're scared of.
Oh,
Like spiders.
fruits and vegetables? No.
Yo, that's too real. I hope you guys heard that. That's his answer. Fruits and vegetables.
Okay,
Go
next
ahead.
question. Apple or Android, David?
Say the right one.
Android.
We know his answer.
Apple has its place.
This one's
but
going to be really hard for you, okay?
I don't know if I.
What's your favorite food?
Ooh.
Oh, man.
There's so many. There's so many.
I just toss up between Spaghetti Factory, pizza, or hamburger, you know?
There's
The way you eat your
three.
hamburgers. Favorite color.
Blue.
Favorite season.
Probably spring when it's not super hot.
That's true.
That's so true.
Yeah.
But when it starts going summer and goes above 75, then no.
Spring is that middle spot.
For real. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
What was that again?
Pineapple on pizza? Yes
Right.
or
This is a yes.
no?
That's
This
a
is
no.
this is straight up
Okay.
yes. Okay.
If you guys didn't know, David is the pickiest eater on this planet Earth. So I
No,
just feel
he's
like,
not. He-
yeah, he is. David, what food do you like?
He said the three dishes
three
that he
things he
owns that
eats.
he eats. But we love him.
David, what's your favorite fruit?
Comes in a bottle.
In a box.
It's called ketchup.
But yes. But by the
Anyway.
way, it's super easy to eat dinner with David Byers because it's like as long as they either have a burger or chicken strips, you can pretty much choose anywhere.
And
Yeah,
every
pretty much
place has
choose
chicken
anywhere.
strips, right?
Every place has
Every
chicken.
place has chicken
Every place
strips.
has a burger.
It's true.
So it's actually
And he doesn't put anything extra on his
I know,
burger.
so
So
it's
it's
like-
like
you can go
You get
anywhere.
The taste of the burger as opposed to piling all that stuff on it that hides the.
that you don't like.
Yeah.
Except ketchup.
Except for ketchup.
You forgot the
Ketchup.
cheese.
Or Parmesan cheese. When we go to Sasquatch, if we get sponsored by Hungry Sasquatch, I'll take some pizza. But anyway,
Pizza. I'm so sorry.
Hungry Sasquatch. We go get a slice of pizza that's like this big. It's not that big, but I'm just being
Pizza.
The
dramatic.
whole pizza is.
Yeah, the whole pizza is like this big. But then he puts a bunch of Parmesan cheese. It's pretty
I
good.
like a little cheese with my pizza.
Huh?
Yeah, he like no, you like a little
Little
pizza with your
my
cheese.
There you go. That's it.
Anyway, well,
Anyway.
that is everything we got today.
Woohoo.
Thank you again, David Byers. High five.
We have to do it at the same time.
Oh, we should. Can
One,
you do it?
2, 3.
Thank you, David Byers, for
Yay.
being here, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Say bye, David.
Bye.
Bye.
There you go.